who is really, really ungrateful for this wonderful dog. On one side, we have Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, who are really, really very, very grateful. Even if somebody is arrogant, even if somebody is unknowingly doing something, but they are very grateful. So these two are the biggest motivators in human life. What are these two? One is greed and one is gratitude. Both are very nice motivators. We'll just quickly look at them. Comparison of greed and gratitude. So greed basically teaches us to focus on what is not in our plate. And gratitude teaches us to focus on what is right now in our plate. So what happens because of that? The definition of somebody who's affected by greed, the definition of success is, you should get what you like. And the definition of success for somebody who has gratitude is, you should like what you get. Another comparison is, it is quite possible that we can cross over our boundaries of good behavior when we are impelled by greed. The current war that is going on, which has been there on the headlines for at least 1 week now, and one of the reasons why induction stoves are out of stock in Bombay. What is the basic reason of this war? Actually, it is greed. More and more resources. Whereas, so we can cross over our boundaries because of greed, and one good example is this current war going on. And if somebody is affected by gratitude, I can safely tell you, not only this person will never cross his boundaries, but actually gratitude will convince him to remain satisfied within his boundaries. So one is, you are forcibly kept in your boundaries, and one is to be satisfied and being convinced, no, this is enough for me, right? So the most important word for somebody affected by greed is more. I remember how Bill Gates, at one point of time, this is maybe 15 years back, he was the richest person on earth at that time. And then he was asked in an interview, what are you looking for in life now that you are on top of the richest list? And he said, more. And on another side, in the scriptures, there is one story. There is this very nice person called Sridhar Kholavech. Kholavech means he is a banana leaf seller. And he is staying in a place at Nadia. Nadia is in West Bengal. So any one of you has been to West Bengal or the Konkan area, it's so full of banana trees. So Mayapur, Nadia is basically a place where there are unlimited banana trees. And in between that, if somebody is selling banana leaves, what market does he have? So he's not going to earn much money, right? So here was a person who would sell banana leaves in a place full of banana leaves. So he anyways did not earn any money. But in his life, he was very, very grateful for the Supreme Lord. And he was very grateful towards Mother Ganga. So you know what he would do? With the little money that he earned, 50% of his earnings, he would offer to the worship of Ganga Devi every day. So already he's earning less money. Within that, he's offering 50% of his earnings to. So how much money did he have for himself? He hardly ate anything. But here is a person who is grateful towards the Lord, who's grateful to Mother Ganges, and that's why he stayed within his boundaries. He never attacked anybody, what to speak of attacking another nation. So first thing we said is focusing what is there not on the plate, focusing what is there on the plate. Second is get what you like, and here it is like what you get. Third is we stay within our boundaries. In gratitude, in greed, we don't stay within our boundaries. The most important word for greed is more. The most important word for somebody with gratitude is enough. I have enough. Greed is usually a very situational thing because greed is triggered by objects. When you see something very opulent, something very attractive, then you become greedy for it. Whereas gratitude is much deeper, and gratitude is not situational. Actually, gratitude is dispositional. Dispositional means it depends on the disposition of the person. And usually when we are surrounded by people who are grateful, then we also get affected by the feeling of gratitude. What is the advantage? When you are affected by something which is situational, as soon as the situation changes, you have to change. But when you are affected by something which is dispositional, when your disposition is something, you are very stable, and even if the situation keeps on changing, you won't change. So it's a much deeper experience. Another thing is, greed will help you prioritize the individual over the community. What is more important is my needs, my desires, my wants, what do I like, what I don't dislike, right? And the feeling of gratitude will help you prioritize the community over the individual. It does not matter whether what I like happens or not, but what should happen is that everyone, if they are happy, if everyone's needs are being taken care of, that's good enough. Why? Because everyone also includes me. So many times we forget that when I'm trying to satisfy myself, I may not end up satisfying everyone. Usually, self-satisfaction is at the cost of public satisfaction. But when we are working towards everyone's satisfaction, does everyone also include us ourselves? I'll give you an example. When a driver is driving a car, does he also enjoy the same air conditioning that the owner enjoys? Does the driver also enjoy the same very fine music system that is installed in that very opulent car that is basically installed for the pleasure of the owner? So when there is public satisfaction, everyone enjoys. If there is air conditioning in this room, are everyone not enjoying? But if somebody says, मुझे तो केवल मेरे लिए चाहिए, then you might end up doing something by which everyone else may or may not get air conditioning. So it's very important to understand this. I'll give you some practical examples. Let's talk about two personalities who are roughly in the same social situation. One is Kamsa and one is Parikshit. So what is the comparison between Kamsa and Parikshit? Kamsa is that person, very powerful king, and one day when he is marrying his sister, there is an Akashvani, and that Akashvani says, very soon, the 8th child of your sister is going to kill you. So there is a prediction about his death, right? And how many years does he have? Minimum 8 years, right? And incidentally, when Krishna was roughly 11 and a half years, that is the time when he was called by Kamsa to Mathura. And that is the time when this fight between Kamsa and Krishna happened and Krishna killed Kamsa, right? So as somebody rightly said, 8th son, so minimum 8 years. And then in reality, Krishna was 11 and a half. So add another 11 to it, so that comes to roughly 19 years. So the day on which the prophecy was made that Kamsa, you are going to be killed, from that day to the actual death, we can say at least 19 years passed. Another person who also got a prophecy for his death is Parikshit. So Parikshit is a very nice king, just like Kamsa, but Kamsa was atrocious. It is said that when Kamsa was ruling, many of his family members actually left Mathura, and they said, we can't stand his, foul-smelling attitude that only I am important, nobody else is important. So many of the dynasties, they left Mathura and they scattered all over the world. What about Parikshit? Parikshit is also a king, but Parikshit is famous for protecting people to the extent that one time when he was touring his kingdom, he saw one cow. She was being attacked by one man. It was not even a slaughterhouse. It was just on the street, a cow was being attacked. Immediately Parikshit, the grand emperor, who at that point of time had soldiers with him, he could have told the soldiers to catch hold. He's saying, this is not something that I can delegate to somebody else. When a cow is being hurt, it is I who am responsible. Parikshit got down, took out his sword, put it at the throat of that person and said, who are you and who gives you a right to punish or hurt a cow? And this person started shivering. He took off his mask, he took off his false crown, he took off his false clothes, and he said, sorry, actually I was pretending to be somebody from the royal order, but actually I am just ordinary person. I am Kali personified. And here I am to oppress people, to hurt people, to insult people. And Parikshit said, whatever you want to do, you cannot do it in my kingdom, get lost. So here is somebody, he could not stand the trouble of a single cow. What to speak of human beings, what to speak of babies, what to speak of women, what to speak of old men, and so on, Brahmanas. So, he is a king, and here is a king. He got a prophecy for his death, minimum 8 years at that time, and then in reality we know 19 years. And this Parikshit, he committed a small mistake. He was very thirsty. So, he did not get a response from somebody, and in that situation, he put a dead snake, not even a living snake, a dead snake around a rishi's shoulders. Very exhausted. So the son of that rishi, he did not even understand the situation properly. He did not even see Parikshit properly. He just heard from one of his friends, "अरे मालूम है तुझे क्या हुआ? तेरे पिताजी का किसी ने insult कर दिया." And he's a 7-year-old boy, inexperienced boy. This 7-year-old boy on the spot pronounced a curse for Parikshit, and he said, "I pronounce a curse that 7 days from now, this King Parikshit will be bit by a snake bird and he will die immediately." So here is a person who's atrocious, he's oppressive. Here is a person who's very protective. Here is a person who got a curse minimum 8 years before the death comes. He got a curse which said 7 days, right? Here is a person who had no connection with dharma. Right before everyone's eyes, the same sister whom he was escorting to her in-laws' place, he took out a sword and is about to shamelessly kill her in front of everyone, right? And Vasudev, the husband of this sister, had to come up with very fast excuses on the spot. "Arey, what will people say? You are so brave, you are so intelligent, people will make fun of you." He said, "Don't worry about it, I'll still kill." Then he gave the last, Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. Last he said, "Okay, your problem is not with your sister, your problem is with the child. So if I promise you that I'll give you the child, is it okay?" He said, "Then it's okay." So he has no sense inside, but on the spot, Vasudev had to come up with a lot of excuses, and that saved the sister's life, right? What about Parikshit? Parikshit is the grandson of Arjun. He's the son of Abhimanyu. So do you see the disparity? Cruel, kind. Lot of time for the actual thing to happen, only 7 days. And here is a person who has no connection with dharma, and Parikshit is somebody who's really in the line of dharma. And both got the same situation, that they were cursed to die. So in this situation, what did Kamsa do? Kamsa lived a life of fear. It is said that in the Kamsa's palace, whenever the curtains would blow and the shadows would move, Kamsa would get up in the middle of the night thinking that maybe it is my killer who is here. He never slept one peaceful night after that prophecy was made. Even though Vasudev has promised, "I'll give you the 8th child." So if the 8th child was promised, announced, that he will be responsible for killing of Kamsa, did Kamsa forgive the previous children? He's so much living in fear. It was clearly spoken. Ashtama Garbha, the 8th child will kill you. What did Kamsa do with all the previous children? He killed all of them. You know why? Just in case. Just imagine the fear in the heart of somebody who's living a life of fear, although he's atrocious, although he has power, although he can overpower anybody, but he's afraid of a small child. The first child, Kirtiman, he can also kill me. The second child can also kill me. And he lived a life of fear. What about Parikshit? Parikshit, as soon as he heard that I have been pronounced death by an inexperienced 7-year-old boy, you know what feeling he had in his life? He said, "I think I was too much attached to my throne. And I think I was too proud of my position as a king. And it is the Supreme Lord Krishna who has appeared in my life in the form of this curse. And I think it's a signal from the Lord that I should become more serious about becoming dutiful in my life as a king. And maybe I crossed my boundaries when I put that dead snake around that Rishi's shoulder." So you know what he did? He gave up his royal clothes. He went to the banks of Ganges and he sat there. And this news leaked all over the universe. At that time, there was no Instagram. At that time, there was no WhatsApp. But the news spread. Parikshit, the great king, the grandson of Arjun, has been unjustly cursed. And he has taken it in a very positive way. He is not going to wage a war. But in fact, he's saying, "I think this was necessary medicine for me." And because Parikshit has been cursed, and Parikshit has given up his royal clothes and is sitting there, Krishna will make sure that he will send somebody to help him out. That's the nature of the Supreme Lord. So all the rishis, they came and sat there, and now they're waiting. कोई ना कोई तो आएगा, भगवान किसी ना किसी को तो भेजेंगे, because Krishna himself is very grateful. So somebody will come and there will be some questions and answers between Parikshit and that person, and we don't want to miss it out. So all the sages are sitting there, and the first words that Parikshit says, you know what he says? He says, "Aho vayam dhanya taparipanam." He says, "Aho vayam dhanya tama." Dhanya ho gaya main aaj. I am the greatest in Sanskrit. there is positive degree, comparative degree, and superlative degree. In English also, good, better, best. So in Sanskrit, how do they do it? Dhanya is positive, Dhanya Tara is comparative, and Dhanya Tama is the highest. So what is Parikshit saying? Aho vayam dhanya tama nripanam. I am the most fortunate of all kings. Why am I most fortunate of all the kings? Because he's saying, Mahat tamanu grahaniya shila. You know why? Because I was trained by my seniors that I should always be grateful. And then he's saying, Ragya kulam brahmana pada shauchat durat visishtam batakarya karma. He's saying, actually look at me, I am a king and in my pride I insulted one rishi. So when a particular category of people is insulted by somebody, do that particular category of people come to help that person? A student insults a teacher, any teacher. Will all the other teachers come together to help this boy, or will these other teachers come together to hurt this boy? To hurt this boy. So Parikshit is looking at a crowd of rishis in front of him and he's saying, somehow I was so unfortunate that in my pride I hurt rishi, but look at me, because my grandfather was such a nice man, out of gratitude for my grandfather, and my grandfather also taught me to be grateful, the same category of rishis have come together here to make sure that I receive proper guidance in my last days of life. And this means that I am the most fortunate of all people. And then he gives a very nice analogy. He says, actually, the rishis, those who are on the path of self-realization, they will never ever go close to a king who is seen as an emblem of materialism. A king is usually surrounded by riches. A king is usually surrounded by enjoyment. So why would somebody who's on the path of self-realization be interested in meeting a king? So he's saying, Ragya kulam brahmana pada shauchat. Actually, the brahmanas, they'll wash their feet. And that water that has washed their feet, do you keep it close to you? You put it away. So a king is looked as a person who's interested in enjoyment, and the rishis will never ever be interested in meeting a king. Actually, if you look in the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then for a long time, Maharaj Pratap Rudra wanted to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just avoided meeting Maharaj Pratap Rudra only on one condition. What is that? There is one bad quality about this Maharaj Pratap Rudra. Although he's an ocean of good qualities, he's a king. And because he's a king, I cannot trust his character. And because I cannot trust his character, I cannot meet him. So Pratap Rudra Maharaj's story, there's kind of a reference here. Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I am a king. I insulted one rishi, but look at my big fortune. Just because I was trained by my superiors to become grateful, all the other rishis in the universe have come together here to give me guidance at the time of death. How fortunate am I? So, who has a greater chance to feel fortunate? Somebody who is cursed unjustly in a matter of 7 days for being a protector of cows, or somebody deserves to be prophesied for death, who has been a ruthless person, who is shamelessly about to kill his own sister in front of everyone, and was never ever protected dharma, and even the time gap that was given to him for death is minimum 8 years from now. Actually, Kamsa could have done a lot with the 8 years that he had, but unfortunately he was not grateful and he was always having a complaining attitude. And on the other side, we see how Parikshit has such a grateful attitude, and because of that, he went ahead, right? So how can two kings have radically different attitudes? See, actually our mind is something like a digestive system. What we eat is what actually, whether we feel energetic or we don't feel energetic. So the input determines how much output can come out. So if we are surrounded by people who are always ungrateful, who are always complaining, these are the books that we read, this is the sound that we keep on hearing, then that is what is going on as the input of the mind, and that is how we become. But if you are surrounded by grateful people, and they always talk to us about how to be, 100 reasons to be grateful, then we'll end up becoming grateful. In scientific terms, there is something called as neuroplasticity. So plastic means something that is bendable, that shape can change, and neuro means our mind. So this neuroplasticity means the ability of the mind to rewire itself. These electrical wires, you cannot rewire them, the fixed connection for the electricity to flow. But in our minds, there are these neurons, and there are multiple connections being made at every moment. Every choice that we make rewires our brain in a different way. If you want to go deeper into this, there is this TED talk by a person called Jill Bolt Taylor. And she, at the age of 37, got a stroke in the left side of her brain. So the left side of our brain is associated with creativity. It is also associated with reading, writing, remembering, coordination of the different limbs while walking. So think about it, at the age of 37, this young lady, because of a stroke, she could not read anything. She could not write anything. She could not remember anything. And she could not even walk because the legs and the hands need coordination. So what did she do? She started training herself under a proper trainer, and it took her years and years. But after years, many years, she again started to read, she again started to write, and she became a neuroscientist. So she became a doctor in this neuro thing. Why? Because she herself was a good example of that. So this phenomenon, and what it did is they checked the brain for a scan. So what they found out, the left side of her brain was actually permanently damaged because of the stroke. Because in the stroke, blood supply stops. And when blood supply stops, all this was damaged. So the functions of the left side of the brain were now being done by the right side of the brain. The right side of the brain is the logical brain. The left side of the brain is the creative brain. But the logical brain ended up becoming creative and tried to compensate for the loss of the left side of the brain. How did it happen? It happened because of years and years of training. So then she put forward, there's a TED talk, the talk is called My Stroke of Insight. So in this, she talks about how the brain has this neuroplasticity and his brain can rewire itself. So only if Kamsa had met somebody who would have told him, you know what, you have 8 years to reform yourself. Bichara Parikshit only has 7 days, but think about it. So all of us in our lives, we have this choice always, and it all depends on whom we associate with and what are we looking forward to in our lives. So 2 things are necessary for experiencing gratitude. 1, recognition of the blessings that we have. This is very important. Most of us are fond of counting the curses that we have in our lives. अरे मेरे जीवन में क्या चल रहा है, आज सुबह ये गलत हो गया, कल शाम को ये गलत हो गया. So all of us have this inclination to count the curses in our lives. But I can safely look at all of you and tell you, all of us are party to this, that there will be some things that are going wrong in our lives, but none of us who are sitting here can say, Prabhuji, in my life, 100% of things are going wrong. Is there anybody here who would like to say this? There are some good things going on in our life, but the way our brain has wired itself over a period of time is we are fond of counting our curses, but actually we should start counting our blessings. And we need to actually sit down and think, yes, this person is not talking good with me, but is there nobody in this world who's talking good with me? Yes, this person frequently insults me, but is there nobody who encourages me in my life? So first point for feeling gratitude is we have to recognize the blessings that are there in our lives along with the curses and focus on the blessings rather than the curses. Yes. The second point is, after recognizing the blessings in our lives, we should also start recognizing the source of those blessings. So most of us don't even count the blessings. What to speak of counting or recognizing the source of our blessings? Actually, many of us will say, अरे ये सब मेरे जीवन में जो मिला है, ये सब मेरे खून पसीने की कमाई है. Right? It's a very favorite dialogue. Where did the खून come from? The खून came from the body, and this body was given to us. The pasina also comes out of this body, and this body was given to us. So basically, खून पसीना kamai, there is nothing called as खून पसीने की कमाई. Because खून is also not your kamai, and pasina is also not your kamai. So the खून and pasina, they come from the body, and this body was also a gift to us. How can we ever claim कि ये सब जो है ये मेरे खून पसीने की कमाई है? Actually, we never ever speak ये सब जो भी है ये आशीर्वाद की देन है. So it's only a question of being honest, right? If you're just honest, how many of you have been struggling that sometimes you get less marks and then you come up with this resolve that I'm going to pump more energy and I'm going to read more books, but the marks don't change, right? You may put Fevicol on the seat in the library, right? And you sit there for 8 hours and 9 hours and 16 hours, but finally what goes on inside, has its own limits, right? Why? Because this gray matter, it has been given to you. Right? So there's something that's been given to you and you can work on that. But we never ever count, in the business world, there is something called as capital, the capital with which you start a business. So if somebody has less capital, oh, kitna kaam karega? So there's very less substance to work on, right? So we never ever think that the one reason why the business of my life has been prospering is because when I arrived in this world, there's a lot of capital that was given to me. Seed capital bolte hain, right? So if somebody has only 10 rupees to start a business, good chances that he will not grow rich. But if the seed capital is 10 CR, then he can actually work on that 10 CR and make into 100 CR, right? So many of us have been given good seed capital by the Supreme Lord. When we arrived in this world, we have a fit body. When we arrived in this world, we have good eyes. When we arrived in this world, we have good intelligence. When we arrived in this world, we have a healthy mind. But we never ever consider the seed capital, and we keep talking about what we did with the seed capital and keep talking this language that ये खून पसीने की कमाई है. Actually, we should say ये सब मेरे आशीर्वाद की देन है. Right? So very important to recognize the blessings and also recognize the source of these blessings. The more we link our happiness to blessings, what will happen in our life? First thing is, our life will become full of hope. You know why? Because blessings can never stop. Who gives blessings? The Supreme Lord gives blessings. Our elders give blessings. Is there some quota that our parents, our teachers, the Supreme Lord has allotted for a human being? एक human being को 10 बार आशीर्वाद मिलेगा, ज़्यादा नहीं मिलेगा. Is there something like that? Right? So, first advantage of linking our happiness to blessings rather than our खून पसीने की कमाई is, first point, we'll always lead a very hopeful life. Why? The more you get blessings, the go down is still full. So there's always hope in life. अरे और मिलेंगे blessings, और मिलेंगे, और मिलेंगे. Second is, you become very active. You can never become passive. You can never become lazy. You'll always be active. Why? Because a person who receives a lot feels an obligation to the person who gave a lot and he wants to repay. He wants to pay back, right? So there's some obligation to him. And a person who always feels obliged in his heart will always work more than a person who does not feel obliged. अरे इन्होंने इतना कुछ दिया है मेरे लिए, तो कुछ ना कुछ तो करना चाहिए उनके लिए. So first point was, a person who links his happiness to gratitude or blessings will always be hopeful in his life. He'll always be active in his life. Third thing is, he'll like to emulate good behavior. Why? Because he says, I have received so much, I cannot stop the flow at my end. I cannot be the dam on Ganga river. I have to allow the river of blessings to flow. So what he does is, just like he received blessings from somebody superior, he wants to emulate that person and he wants to pass on giving blessings to somebody else. So he himself becomes a very kind-hearted person. He himself becomes a very nice person to be around. Fourth point is, he will definitely become a very patient person. He will accept the virtue of patience. You know why? Because blessings can never be demanded. Can you ever go to somebody and say, I demand you that you give me blessings right now the way I want? Right? That's not the language you talk. So you become hopeful, you become active, you become a good person at heart, you become patient, and you're also more likely to pass on the culture of always being humble and always being grateful and always be seeking blessings to others. So you are having a positive impact on yourself and you're also having a positive impact on the people around you. Now let's consider somebody who links his or her happiness not to blessings but to things. खून पसीने की कमाई. This person, will he ever be hopeful for more and more things to arrive in his life? Why? Because he knows, nobody's going to give it, right? You will have to earn it hard. So there's always end of the journey for somebody who links his happiness to things. How many things can we have at our home? Depending on the size of our home. If you stay in a small home, even though you have capacity to earn a lot of things and to pile up your home with a lot of things, but can you have a lot of things? It depends on certain constraints. Your buying power, your storing power, yes? So you can never be hopeful when you link your life to things. Can you also be active? Because you don't feel obliged to anybody. मैं क्या मेरे जिंदगी में करूँगा, it will not be decided by anybody else. I think I have had enough. I think it's time to be lazy. I think it's time to just take an off. So you can be quite lazy and you can be quite passive in your work, in your life, in your relationships. Why? There's no obligation to anybody. किसी ने मेरे लिए आज तक कुछ किया ही नहीं है, तो मेरे खून पसीने की कमाई है, right? So this person is leading a hopeless life. This person is leading a passive life. This person will never have any higher person to emulate. So this person will mostly lead a very selfish life. क्यों? उसके हिसाब से मुझे आज तक किसी ने कुछ दिया ही नहीं, जो भी कमाया है वो मैंने कमाया है. So he also does not like to give to anybody. So mostly he'll lead a very selfish life. And can such a person be a very patient person? Usually people, who are go-getters, means they want it right now. So there's this very famous word which goes on around in our chatting, is ASAP, right? So what is ASAP? Right? In Marathi they say, आत्ता सांगितलं आत्ता पाहिजे. Right now, right? So, usually these people will be very impatient, and one bad news for them is the clock of this world runs at a different speed from the clock on our wrist. I don't know how many of you noticed it. But when you want certain things, it's not necessary that you get it, right? The world around us, the speed of the clock of the world around us has a different speed than the clock on our wrist. And so we might actually become a lot of impatient. And what happens to an impatient person in the real world? He'll become a very miserable person. He'll lead a very miserable life. Why? Because he may not get what he wants when he wants it. So a lot of challenges with not linking our happiness to blessings. There are some effects that gratitude will have on us. I'll first talk about the individual effects and then talk about the community effects. Somebody who's feeling gratitude in his or her heart, it's very easy to recognize the contribution of others in our lives. So how many of us feel that there are people in our lives who have contributed to our lives? Has our mother contributed to our life? Raise your hands. Yes. Has our father contributed? Has our teacher contributed? May not be all, but some. Have our elders contributed to our lives? Have our friends contributed to our lives? Now, usually, if you're short-sighted, you don't recognize the contribution of others. And it's a lie. Fundamentally, it's a lie to not recognize the contribution of others. So, for somebody who's feeling gratitude, it's easy to recognize the contribution of others in their lives. Second, once you recognize the contribution of somebody in your life, then it becomes easy to reciprocate with that contribution. Then you want to do something. Third, now because you are recognizing the contribution of others in your life, and you know that even if I exhaust my resources, but there are people in my life who have contributed to my life, so resources can add up. Resources can come, right? Sometimes there are these fighter planes who go on a mission and they get caught up in a fight in the air with the enemy airplanes. And sometimes it can happen that they exhaust their fuel. So what happens is, there is something called as mid-air refueling. The plane is there in the sky, it does not have to return back to its Air Force base. Another plane will come, and in mid-air, there is a pipe that is connected, and it again refuels, and it again goes on its mission, right? So this airplane, which has the capacity to refuel in mid-air, is it ever afraid of getting exhausted? No, it can just bravely go on in its life, fighting missions and fighting airplanes. Why? Because he knows anytime my fuel gets exhausted, I can refuel, right? So similarly, for a person who knows the contribution of others in his life, he knows even if someday I get exhausted, even if someday I get really, really morose and I don't feel like doing anything, all I need to do is refuel mid-air and I can again restart my mission, right? So this person, easy to recognize contribution, easy to reciprocate with the contribution. Third is, this person, because of this mid-air refueling, he will always find it very strong to deal with life's challenges. No challenge is something to sit down. Every challenge is face it, go ahead. If you get exhausted with your inspiration, then just connect to somebody and receive fresh inspiration. Fourth point is, very naturally, for such a person, there is no question of pride. For somebody who believes in blessings, for somebody who believes in gratitude to the contribution of others, can there be pride in this person? Because pride comes when you think, I own this. This belongs to me. When you know, ye sab ashirwad ki deen hai, then you don't have a question of becoming proud. Such a person also will never become envious of somebody, because when he looks at somebody who is also receiving a lot, then this person says, yeah, dene wala mujhe de raha hai, to dene wala ne inko bhi diya hai. But देने वाला के पास कितना है? How much resources God has? Unlimited. So can God, who is unlimited and who has unlimited resources, give me unlimited blessings, and can also give him unlimited blessings, and can give him unlimited blessings, and can give unlimited people unlimited blessings? Is there anything wrong with this? When does envy come? Envy comes when there are limited resources. And when I have enough and you are having more than me, then I feel, इसके पास अगर इतना है तो मतलब मेरा कम हो गया. Right? Then envy builds up. When you think and when you understand that actually it is all based on blessings, then there is no space for pride and then there is no space for envy. Can you look at the heart of this person? How does this heart look like? He recognizes the contribution of others. He reciprocates with the contribution of others. He is very strong in dealing with the hardships that life gives to him. This person has no envy in his heart for anybody, and this person has no pride for anybody in his heart. Is this heart a beautiful heart or is this heart an ugly heart? Are you sure? The community effect of this is, in general, this is a statistic that people, in colleges sometimes there is some fun that seniors have at the cost of the juniors. The freshers who come into the college, they'll have some fun, right? Now, fun is a very soft word that I'm using. The real word is something else only, right? But yes, we don't want to discuss all that. Sometimes it's called ragging. So the statistic is, there's a high probability that somebody who has received ragging when he was a fresher ends up as a person who does ragging to the juniors. It's very interesting. There is high probability that abuse receivers become abuse perpetrators. Now, it does not make any sense, but that's how human beings are. Usually we'll feel somebody who has been abused in his or her life will take a vow and say, when I grow up, I'm not going to be abusive to anybody. But usually the real-time statistics are not like that. It goes for ragging, it goes for abuse. So the statistic is, people who have this feeling, I have received so much from others, are usually the people who create a culture like that, and people who are part of that culture, they also end up having that kind of a feeling, oh, I have received so much in my life. But how did that person get that culture? Because of one person who himself or herself had that culture. So at the community level, gratitude also creates a very sweet heart. You said, did you say heart? That heart was a sweet heart, good looking heart, beautiful heart. At the community level, this person has a sweet heart, but this sweet-hearted person also creates an environment in which many people also develop that sweet and beautiful heart. Why? Because the statistic is, what I undergo, I create a culture like that. So somebody who has a thankful heart, somebody who has a grateful heart also creates a legacy of gratitude. And somebody who has an abusive experience, there's a high probability that he or she will also create an abusive environment. So think about it, just one person, when he or she becomes grateful, when one person just values the presence of blessings in their lives, what kind of a culture is being set in that person's own heart and at a community level. So gratitude is something which is very, very important. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, he says, for any good plant to grow, the soil has to be fertile. So Maharaj always compares gratitude to the fertility of the soil. So sometimes we may have a very good seed, but if the soil is infertile, you plant the seed and nothing happens. What happens? The seed was good. So Bhakti Lata, it's always called a beej. So Bhakti is a beej, but that Bhakti beej will prosper in the fertile soil of gratitude. Sometimes it is said that gratitude is the mother of all good qualities. If we really are serious about developing good qualities, it starts with gratitude. If we don't have gratitude for what we have received, fat chance that we'll become recipients of any other good quality. So very important. All of you, is there anybody, I'll rephrase my question, is there anybody here who does not know the iceberg principle? Anybody here? No, all of you know the iceberg principle. So the iceberg principle is, iceberg are these huge chunks of ice. I just keep it short and swift. So iceberg is something, a huge chunk of ice, and it floats on water. And it's usually huge. So there's an iceberg that hit Titanic, and the ship that God could not sink sank on its first voyage. So this is a huge iceberg, but it is said only 30 to 35% of the iceberg is visible above the water. So जो इतना बड़ा दिख रहा है, more than double of that is actually below the water. So this is called the iceberg principle, that what you see is also big, but relatively it is a small part of what you see. So similarly, what is the iceberg principle of gratitude? It's easy to feel gratitude for somebody who contributed to our health, because health is something that we can perceive. अरे एक ज़माना था मैं बीमार था and somebody made me walk, or somebody gave me some physiotherapy exercises and now I can walk on my own feet. I can do some things. I could not dance, but a dance teacher taught me how to dance. I could not sing, but a singing teacher taught me how to sing, right? So somebody could give us good health, somebody could give us some skills, somebody could give us some wealth. Is health visible? Is wealth visible? Is skills visible? Singing, dancing, speaking, right? So the iceberg principle of gratitude is, it is kind of easy to develop gratitude for somebody who taught us some skills, because the skills are visible. And because the result is visible, it's easy to feel gratitude for somebody. But what is the biggest part of the iceberg? Is it above the water? Is it below the water? Below the water. So it's easy to develop gratitude for somebody who taught us skills. It's easy to develop gratitude for somebody who gave us wealth. It is easy to develop gratitude for somebody who gave us health. But it is extremely difficult for us to develop gratitude for somebody who may not have given us health, wealth, or skills, but may have given us some advice. 5 minutes of a conversation. And that conversation gave us a new perspective in life. And that conversation changed the way we looked at our own lives, we looked at the world, and that fundamental change in the direction of our life. See, there are two ways to change a journey. One is to change your speed, and one is to change your direction. Most of us are getting caught up into changing the speed of our life. Modern education is all about changing the speed of our life. Now this latest train is this much kilometers per hour. That train is now faster than this. First there was 1G internet, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, right? So it's all about speeding up. But speeding up what? The speed. What about the direction? What happens to a person who's running at breakneck speed but in the wrong direction? So one time there was an announcement on an airplane. We have some good news for you and we have some bad news for you. The good news is that the plane is traveling at twice the speed of sound. Everyone started clapping. And the next announcement was, the bad news is we don't know where we are going. So then all the clapping stopped. So modern education is trying to increase the speed at which we are traveling. And the Vedic education does not talk about the speed of life. It talks about the direction of life. So many of us are influenced by people who teach us how to increase the speed of our life, but very few of us can recognize when somebody is trying to change the direction of our life. And that's why I mentioned it's easy to feel gratitude for people who gave us skills, knowledge, maybe wealth, health, but it's very, very difficult to recognize and develop gratitude for somebody who gave us a meaning in life, who gave us a perspective in life. I'll give you a very sweet example. This is straight from the Srimad Bhagavatam. All of us have heard the story of Dhruv Maharaj, a 7-year-old boy. He went and tried to sit on the lap of his father, and his stepmother said, "Get lost. If you want to sit on your father's lap, you need to take birth from my womb. अभी मर जाइए आप, शरीर बदलिए, मेरी पेट में से जन्म लीजिए, then you can sit on your father's lap." He felt so bad. I cannot even sit on my father's lap, and my stepmother is insulting me, and he was very anxiously looking at his father. "Pitaji, आप तो कुछ कहिए." And father was silent. So he was doubly crushed. So then he goes hissing like a snake. He's feeling so bad, and he goes to his mother. And you know what his mother says? His mother says, "Actually, what your stepmother said is true, because I'm not so beautiful. So I'm not the favorite queen of your father, but she is the favorite queen of your father. But I'll tell you something. Instead of fighting against destiny, now you will make some revenge fantasy against your stepmother. You will plan to insult her, or you will say, "Ab jab main bada hounga to mere stepmother ko marunga," whatever, right? All of us have revenge fantasies. She said, "No revenge fantasies." She said, "Let's just accept the fact and look at me. I'm not somebody who's just interested in advising you. I have in my life accepted the bitter fact I'm not beautiful. and I'm not the favorite queen of your father. But that does not mean my life is meaningless. Why? Here I am advising you, right? So, one person's approval of our beauty or something that we have or disapproval does not mean our life is meaningless. So, what did Suniti do? Suniti is leading a very meaningful life, not based on what her husband thinks of her. She is leading a meaningful life thinking about what are the ideals in my life, what are the values of my life. And when Dhruv comes to her, she transmits those values to him and says, Beta, I cannot give you something that, I cannot argue with your father saying, no, I am beautiful. I am not. But she says, I know of somebody who can really help you and grant you a position from where nobody, including your stepmother, can shake you. So he says, who's that person? So she says, I know of one person, is the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. So in a very innocent way, our Dhruv, he says, अच्छा क्या पता क्या उनका एड्रेस क्या है? कहाँ रहते हो भगवान आपके? So Suniti says, I also don't know much. But I have heard that whenever somebody wants to meet God, they go into the forest. So maybe that's where he stays. And Dhruva, accepting the mother of his very nice mother who has accepted the facts, accepts that guidance and goes to the forest. There he meets Narad Muni. Narad Muni tests him. After testing him, tells him, you should chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He chants. In 6 months, he meets God. What is his age when all this is happening? 6, 7 years, roughly that age. Adolescent, basically, right? He meets the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord says, I bless you that you will become a very great, powerful king and you will rule for 36,000 years. So a lot of things happen. We are not going into that. But then fast forward his life 36,000 years ahead. And he's a very powerful king. He's unbeatable. He's somebody whom all the kings respect. And at the end of his lifespan, he is in the forest because he's taken Vanaprastha. And he's in the forest surrounded by sages. And one day, Vaikuntha Viman descends. And there are two personalities there, Nanda and Sunanda. There are the two representatives of the Supreme Lord. And they say, my dear Dhruv Maharaj, we have come to receive you. And you know what Dhruv Maharaj does? Here is somebody, just like we discussed about Kamsa, whose death was predicted. Parikshit, whose death was predicted. Here is Dhruv, whose Vaikuntha Gaman is predicted. What a great personality, right? Just recently we had Tukaram Beach, right? Gaur Purnima is Purnima. 2 days after that is the day on which Tukaram Maharaj went to Vaikuntha. So right here, Dehu is close by near Pune, a Vaikuntha Viman descended just 500 years back. And Tukaram Maharaj in front of everyone sat on that Vaikuntha Viman and went back to Vaikuntha, right? So Dhruv Maharaj also, the Vaikuntha Viman descended, and these two personalities, the four-handed representatives of the Supreme Lord, they descend from the plane and say, my dear Dhruv Maharaj, we have come here to take you back to Vaikuntha. And what is Dhruva's attitude? We discussed about gratitude and greed. So which heart was beautiful? The greed attitude, the greed heart or the grateful heart? So I'll tell you something what Dhruv Maharaj did. Dhruv Maharaj is not looking down upon the sages that are around him for whom the Vaikuntha Viman has. आप लोग तपस्या कर रहे हैं, आप लोग ऋषि मुनि हैं, आपका संग करने के लिए मैं राज्य छोड़ के जंगल में आया हूं आपके आश्रम में. But guess what? This Vaikuntha Viman has come for me. No such attitude. You know what Dhruv Maharaj did? Dhruv Maharaj went to each and every sadhu there and received the blessings of all these sadhus and said, because of your teachings and because of your association, even though I was a king, I could maintain good consciousness, I could maintain my gratitude, and because of that today Vaikuntha Viman has come. I need the blessings of those for whom Vaikuntha Viman has not come to board the Vaikuntha Viman. Is this not a very sweet attitude? And then you know what he did? He climbed on that Vaikuntha Viman. And then those two said, shall we leave? And then he said, wait a minute. All this happened because at one point of time when I was hissing like a snake and envy was boiling in my heart out of deep pain for the insult by my stepmother and my father, one personality took me aside and guided me and said, don't become envious towards those who feel envy for you. This is the first teaching that Suniti gives to Dhruv. जो आपका बुरा चाहते हैं, आप उनका बुरा मत चाहिए. So then क्या करना है? तो बोले, wait, I'll help you. You go to the forest, the Supreme Lord will meet you. And then so many changes happened. And then Vaikuntha Viman has descended, right? Dhruv Maharaj, what is the age when this is happening, this Vaikuntha Viman is happening? 36,000 years. And on that Vaikuntha Viman, when he's surrounded by rishis who are not going to the spiritual world, it's very natural for him to have a sense of superiority, right? But he's not having the sense of superiority. And 36,000 years later, he is remembering the teachings that his mother gave to him at the right time. And what did his mother teach him? Don't become envious of those who feel envy for you. My dear son, accept the truth and I'll give you a good way in which you can sit on a place from where nobody can shake you. Right? And even today he's there, Dhruv Tara is there. But in the heart of Dhruv, who's responsible for all this? Suniti, my mother. So you know what Dhruv Maharaj tells to Nanda and Sunanda? He says, I'm not going to Vaikuntha. So they say, why? He said, first my mother should go to Vaikuntha. So mother did not do sadhana. Mother did not do any tapasya. But what did mother do? Mother gave me guidance. Those 4 sentences that she spoke to me, she did not increase the speed of my life. She changed the direction of my life. And because of that today, in one sense, I have achieved. A king has achieved something that the Rishi Munis have not achieved. But who's responsible for that? Mere khoon pasine ki kamai. He's saying what is responsible for that is Ashirwad ki den. So he is remembering his mother's 4 sentences of advice 36,000 years later when he has done something totally abnormal. It is called Sadeha Vaikuntha Gaman. Usually when people leave, they leave their body here and the soul goes to Vaikuntha. There are only 2 personalities in history who have gone Sadeha. They have gone with this body to Vaikuntha. One is Tukaram Maharaj and the earlier example is Dhruv. Dhruv has achieved Sadeha Vaikuntha Gaman. But even after achieving something that is not there even in the Bhagavatam, this person is remembering those 4 sentences of advice that Suniti gave to him 36,000 years back. 7 साल की उम्र में हमारे जीवन में, those of us who are sitting here, how many of us might have received some good advice from mother, father, friends, elders, teachers? Is it possible we received? How many of you remember that? 7 years age. And our age is what now? Rough average age here is 30, 25, right? So it's just 20 years gone and we have already forgotten. And Dhruv Maharaj is 36,000 years later remembering. This is what I'm calling as the iceberg principle of gratitude. It's easy to have gratitude for those who gave us visible things. It's very, very extremely rare to have gratitude for people in our lives who did not give us things, but they gave us perspectives. For those people in our life who gave us, who changed the direction in which we are. So that's why it is said, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koe, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoe. So Lava is 8/45 of a second. You take 8 seconds and make 45 parts of it. That is one Lava. It's roughly 1/6 of a second. 1/6 of a second, if you associate with the right person, it is said, Sarva Siddhi Hoe. So in 1/6 of a second, what Siddhi is going to happen? What they do is they don't change the speed of your life, they change the direction of your life. So Dhruv Maharaj is not looking at people who contributed to the visible things in life. अरे कौन है जिसने मुझे सोने का मुकुट पहनाया जब मैं राजा बन गया? कौन है जिसने मेरे लिए रथ बनाया जब मैं राजा बन गया? That is all right. I am grateful for all those people. But I am deeply grateful for those people who gave me something that even the world cannot see, but I am going to see it. So this is the iceberg principle of gratitude, which is very, very important for us. And, you know, it's kind of easy to be grateful to anybody when things go our way. So I want, tomorrow somebody should come and appreciate me. And tomorrow actually somebody comes and appreciates me. It's very easy to be grateful. Thank you. Now you realize the truth. So many people, they are yet to become wise. But now you have understood the truth, right? It's easy to be grateful to people when things go our way. But the test is actually to be grateful when things don't go our way. You know why? Because when things don't go our way, that is the time when we actually become eager for wisdom. Guidance किसको चाहिए? जिसका जीवन उसको जैसे चाहिए वैसे नहीं जा रहा है. Then you become eager, then you become hungry, not for food. Then you become hungry for guidance. So guidance will come in the plate of those who are hungry for guidance, right? And when will we become hungry for guidance? When things go our way as expected, or when things don't go our way as expected. So if you look at it, the direction of our life will change by guidance. And guidance will come in the plate of those who are seeking guidance. And those people will seek guidance when their expectations are not being met by life. So actually, it will help us a lot if we become grateful for the situations in our life when life did not obey our demands. When things are not going our way, that is the time when we become grateful, because this is the time when we are actually searching, hungry for guidance. Can you please help me? Because, when you become poor, when you become unsuccessful, suddenly you realize that people don't have time to talk to you. When you go bankrupt, when the stocks in which you invested, they sink, then suddenly when you call your friends, then you end up getting busy tones lot more times. And when you are doing good in your business and when you are doing good in your career, it becomes relatively easy for people to pick up your phones fast, right? So I read one line, success is a relative term. When you become successful, then a lot of relatives start recognizing you. Right? So many people start phoning you, many people say, "Arey, मैं 10वीं में तेरे साथ था, मैं चौथी में तेरे साथ था." I don't even remember somebody like that. But then people start recognizing you. Why? Because you are at a good post and all. The moment the fortunes change, you call up some of your friends and say, "अरे सुना ही नहीं दे रहा है, अरे बहुत यहाँ आवाज है, बाद में बात करता हूँ," right? And suddenly you end up, calling people, and then people don't even recognize you online, what to speak of in person. So actually, we become hungry for guidance, we become hungry for the truth of life when things don't go our way. And that is the gratitude that actually, if we have, we can actually outdo anybody in our life. When we are thankful for the bad times in our life rather than to be thankful for the good times in our life. So, a crippled body can't walk properly. A crippled intelligence can't solve properly. A crippled mind cannot think properly. And a crippled soul cannot love properly. Ungrateful people are basically crippled at the body level. Are ungrateful people crippled at the bodily level? Are ungrateful people crippled at the intelligence level? They have not yet understood, but more deeper, actually, ungrateful people are crippled at the soul level. And that's why only grateful people can love somebody properly. If you are not feeling grateful, which basically means you don't feel loved. If you don't feel loved, you cannot love anybody. It is only a person who feels loved by the Lord, who feels loved by somebody, can actually transfer that love to somebody. So gratitude is not just important for handling crisis in life. Gratitude is not just important for leading a very meaningful life. Gratitude is also very important to lead a very nice, loving life, right? I'll quickly discuss something which is some qualities that are favorable for developing gratitude. First is selflessness. Selflessness is something that will really make gratitude flourish in our life. One person, is talking to his wife and he said, "Arey, मैं वो doctor के पास गया, and this doctor said, you need to change your diet because the way you're eating is not good for you." So then what did you do? So I went to another doctor. I changed my doctor. So the doctor is trying to change my diet and I changed the doctor only, right? Another person is also going to a doctor for diet reference, and the doctor says, "Well, looking at all your blood reports and lipid profile and all that, I think in the morning you need to have only 2 oranges. In the lunch, you need to have only 1 apple. And in the evening, maybe 1 or 2 bananas." So next day in the morning, he receives a phone call from the person. He says, "Doctor, those 2 oranges that you mentioned in the morning, that is before breakfast or after breakfast?" Right? So, everything in my life has to happen as per what I think is right. Nobody else's opinion matters. So that's called selfishness. And selflessness means I remove myself consciously from the center of my life and I put somebody else who's contributed to my life. And a grateful heart, it's easy to recognize the contribution of others. So you put that person. It could be your parents. It could be somebody who's really affected your life a lot. In spiritual circles, it could be Srila Prabhupada, it could be a spiritual master, it could be the Supreme Lord Krishna. Oh, Krishna is so kind, Krishna is so beautiful, Krishna is so loving. So anybody other than you. But when you put somebody else in the center of your life, then what happens is you will lead your life as per the likings and the guidelines given by that person. It is no longer important what you like. It's no longer important मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है. What is important is उनको क्या अच्छा लगता है. I'll tell you one story. There is this one saintly person called Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is straight from the spiritual world. He's a kalpa vriksha in the spiritual world, but he descended into this material world to share the Madhurya Ras. Madhurya Ras means the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna. Not anybody can talk on that subject matter, but Madhavendra Puri, because he's a kalpa vriksha in the spiritual world, he knows the sweet exchanges that happen between Radha and Krishna. And he is that wonderful personality who introduced the Madhurya Ras in the mundane world. So this Madhavendra Puri in his old age is sick. And he has two disciples. One is called Ishwara Puri and one is called Ramachandra Puri. Ramachandra Puri is a big, huge scholar. And because of his scholarship, he is very proud. And one day, when Madhavendra Puri, in his own heart, in a spiritual state of existence, is saying, "Oh Krishna, oh Deena Dayardra Nath He, Mathura Nath He, Kadavalokya Se." He's saying, "Oh Mathura Nath Krishna, when will I see you? Kadavalokya Se. When will you become visible to me?" In his last stage of life, Madhavendra Puri is crying out, "Oh Krishna, when will I see you?" And Ramachandra Puri, because he's a big scholar, he has the audacity to correct his spiritual master, and he tells, "Oh Madhavendra Puri, don't you know that the Lord is all pervading? And why are you crying like this, that when will I see the Lord, when will I see the Lord? Why don't you meditate on the effulgence of the Lord, the Brahman effulgence of the Lord?" Madhavendra Puri felt so disgraced by hearing from his own disciple correction for him. He said, "Get lost from here. At the last stage of my life, I don't even want to see your face, because if I die looking at your face, I don't know where I'll go." And at that time, when he was really, really very old, in that condition, he could not even clean himself. When he would answer his nature's call, he could not clean himself. Ishwara Puri had so much gratitude for Madhavendra Puri. What teachings Madhavendra Puri has introduced in this world. The Madhurya Ras was completely absent in the material world. Highest was Vatsalya Ras, the relationship of a jiva with the Lord in the mood of a parent or as a son. But to become a lover of the Lord was practically unheard of. But Madhavendra Puri introduced that. So Ishwara Puri had so much gratitude for his spiritual master, he would clean what Madhavendra Puri could not clean. And because he was so humble, it came only out of gratitude. And what he would do is, instead of advising Madhavendra Puri, he would sing songs about Krishna. Because he said, "Oh Krishna, when will I see you?" So he's singing songs about Krishna. He's speaking Krishna Leela to him. So, okay, you may not see him physically with his eyes, but in the form of Leela, at least I'll help my spiritual master come closer to Krishna. Madhavendra Puri was so much affected by the humility, service attitude, and the gratitude of Ishwara Puri. Madhavendra Puri said, "Let you become Krishna conscious." And this Ishwara Puri, he became the storehouse of love of Godhead. He became Premera Sagar. And what Premera Sagar he became? That Premera Sagar he became the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended to from the spiritual world to spread the glories of the holy name. He was carrying love of Godhead in his heart, but he accepted Ishwara Puri as his spiritual master. And why did he receive Ishwara Puri as his spiritual master? Because Ishwara Puri was blessed by his spiritual master. And what was the reason why Madhavendra Puri blessed Ishwara Puri? Because of his service attitude. And why did Ishwara Puri had service attitude towards Madhavendra Puri? He had so much gratitude for Madhavendra Puri. So when we have gratitude for somebody, and when we put that person in the center of our life, not only we will lead a very grateful life, not only we will lead a very fulfilled life. I am sharing something which is the essence of this story, Ishwara Puri story. You will even accept inconveniences in your life just to please that person. So one thing is, I lead a normal life, I lead a happy-go-lucky life and try to please somebody. Height of selflessness is, if I don't serve this person, my life is good. But if I dare to serve this person, then actually I'm inviting inconvenience in my life. I'm inviting difficulties in my life. Is there any person sitting here who is saying, "Prabhuji, I want to accept inconvenience in my life. I want to invite difficulties in my life"? But when you become selfless and when you actually want to please somebody, you go to the extent of inviting inconvenience and difficulties in your life, this extreme step is only possible for somebody who wants to develop gratitude in your life. Gratitude is that mover and shaker, bolte hai na? Gratitude is that mover and shaker that can push human beings through the thickest of problems. If you look at the life of Srila Prabhupada, for 65 years, he's struggling. Out of that 43 years, he's struggling in India alone, writing books, publishing books, distributing books, and getting answers from people. हमारे पास समय नहीं है. 43 years. There are some people in this room whose age is 43 years. Prabhupada struggled for 43 years. And at the age of 65, he traveled all alone with 2 heart attacks. What for? Gratitude for his spiritual master. So gratitude is the biggest mover and shaker in this world, right? We'll go ahead. The second thing is, something that is favorable for developing a feeling of gratitude is when you understand the purpose of life is not pleasure. The purpose of life is something much more beyond eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The purpose of life is, just like every parent, if you go and ask the parent, आपको आपके बच्चे से क्या चाहिए? I'll give you some options. पैसा, option number 1, पैसा चाहिए. Option number 2, उसके कपड़े चाहिए. I'm giving you, viable options. Option number 3, मुझे उससे कुछ नहीं चाहिए, मुझे यही चाहिए कि ये बड़ा हो और अपने पैरों पे खड़ा रहे. How many of you feel option A is right? Nobody. How many of you feel option 2 is right? Nobody. How many of you feel option 3 is right? So what do the parents want? They don't want money, they don't want clothes, they don't want anything. Everything is given by them only. The parents want the child to grow. Similarly, the Supreme Father in our life, why has he given us this life? It is not just to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Actually, all that the father wants, all that the mother wants from us is we should become better human beings, we should become better individuals, right? So the purpose of life is not just doing physical activities. Purpose of life is to grow. I'll give you an example. In the World War II, there was this person called Adolf Hitler who created a system to kill 120 lakh Jews. 12 million Jews were killed. One of them was a person called Viktor Frankl. This Viktor Frankl was one of the prisoners in one of the concentration camp. But he was a very vigilant person. He was not affected by the concentration camp. He was looking around at the concentration camp. And I'll share some of the observations that he had. When he looked around, he saw some people, they were very rich people. Jews are usually financially well-to-do. And they were suddenly captured and put in that concentration camp, surrounded by poverty, surrounded by difficulties. Some of the people there, they lost all hope for life. And they basically, came to a sad situation where they would pass urine and stool and they would not even clean themselves. Young boys, young people, they just lost hope in life. Abhi जीवन में क्या रखा है? Abhi concentration camp में कभी न कभी तो मरना है. So they just became like animals. They became like dumb. And Viktor Frankl is observing all that. He observed some people at one point of time in the concentration camp. See, men were kept aside in different concentration camps and females were kept aside, right? So sometimes the news would come that this person's wife and this person's daughter and this person's mother have been killed in that concentration camp. So he observed some of those people, when they heard that, till that point of time, they were doing good. But when they heard their relatives have been killed, they suddenly lost all purpose for life and they also just resigned themselves. They became morose, they became sick, and very soon they stopped eating and they died. He also observed some people who were not doing good. They were doing very bad. But when they heard a news that in some concentration camp, their relatives are still alive, suddenly it was like a whiff of oxygen and they suddenly started leading life with a lot of enthusiasm and encouragement. He also saw some people who, they just were leading their lives with no purpose. So some people, when they heard bad news, they gave up. Some people, when they heard good news, they got encouraged. Some people, he saw that they were anyways not affected. So he, based on his observations, he found out a way of thinking. He said, actually what keeps people alive is not food. Because some of those people who became morose had food, but they stopped eating and they died. They became sick. He said, what keeps people alive is a purpose in life. If they love somebody, and they know that that person is waiting for me, then they want to keep themselves healthy, they want to keep themselves alive, and they feel the purpose of my life is not just to eat and be alive, but the purpose is to help that person or to meet that person and to connect to that person. So based on this, he formed a branch of psychology. It's called logotherapy. And logotherapy says the most important thing in life is not clothes, roti kapda makan nahi hai. The most important thing in life is a purpose. So it is said, if you don't have a purpose in your life to die for, then you don't have a purpose in life to live for. What it means is, all of us are actually looking for some high goal in life. And the day we realize there is some high goal in life, then everything else fades away. Sometimes you've seen there are people who take photographs at a sunset point or a sunrise point. So the sun is way far and the people are there in front, but you have to adjust the camera. So either you can focus on the sun or either you can focus on the people. If you focus on the people, then the people's face is very clear, but the sun becomes hazy. And if you focus on the sun, then the people's face becomes hazy. So if you really want to catch something that is very far away, then you can focus only on one, right? So what happens is, when you get a high aim in life, then when you focus on that, then all the difficulties that come in your life, the immediate difficulties that come in your life, they lose their importance. So the way people behave with you, the way people insult you, the way people don't talk good about you, the way people humiliate you, it does not matter. Why? Because life is not about feeling good. Life is not about receiving appreciation. Life is about being ready to meet the original purpose of life. So this is also something that is very, very nice and that helps us. I'll tell you one story. One boy was about to pass his graduation. And as he's about to pass his graduation, he's getting good marks. So he tells his father, I am on this date, I am going to pass my graduation. And there's this new sports bike that has come in the market. And I know it's costly, but I also know that you can afford it. So because I got good marks in graduation, I'm requesting you, can you please give me that sports bike? And the father just keeps quiet. He does not say yes, he does not say no. Then finally, the day of graduation comes, he gets good marks. So he has all good reasons to get that good bike. So he goes to his father and he says, Papa, you know, I told you I'll get good marks. I got good marks. Where is my sports bike? So the father, instead of giving him some keys or something, in his hand, he keeps a Bhagavad Gita copy. There's a book, Bhagavad Gita, and he keeps it in his hand. And this boy, because he's always earned good marks and he knows his father can afford that sports bike, he's actually expecting it. But when he receives a Bhagavad Gita, he's so put off. How can you do this? You know, how can you give me a Bhagavad Gita in front of him? So he just puts that Bhagavad Gita and walks out. And he's just completely annoyed with his father that my father is really a strange person. He's a stingy person. He's not even giving me a bike. And then what happens is that night, he does not even return home. So in that anxiety, mera beta mujhe chhod ke chala gaya, the father leaves this world. So next day morning, father has left and the boy, somebody tells him, your father has left. So he comes back and then everyone says, inki sari property aapke naam pe hi hai. So now you have to do the needful. So then he's thinking, you know, was I wrong that I left the home because I did not receive the bike keys, or was he wrong that he gave me the Bhagavad Gita, whatever, things are going on. So he goes to the room of his father. Jai Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. So he goes to the room of his father and on the table of the father's desk, there is that Bhagavad Gita. Listen attentively, this is the main point. He goes to the father's room and on the father's desk, there is that Bhagavad Gita. And he opens the Bhagavad Gita. And in that Bhagavad Gita, there is that bookmark. And he wants to check out. Let's check out where my father put the bookmark. He takes the bookmark there. It is on 9.22. So 9.22 is Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Paryupasate Tesham Nitya Bhuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. So Krishna is saying, those are always remembering me. I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Right? And as he's looking at that Bhagavad Gita, when he turns the pages, one key falls from that Bhagavad Gita. And on that key, there is a paper attached and said, to my dear son, the bike that you wanted, paid in full. So the father really did purchase the bike and he gifted it to his son. But he did not want to be called as the provider. बेटे को क्या लगना चाहिए? मैंने नहीं दी बाइक. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nidyapi yuktanam yogakshemam mahamyam. Who is the real provider? Krishna is the provider. So along with the gift of the bike, which the boy wanted, the father also wanted a purpose to be added to the boy's life. That who is the real provider? It is Krishna. But the son did not want the purpose, and the son only wanted the bike. तो छोड़ के चला गया, फिर पिताजी चले गए. But then he understood, my father was not stingy. My father was not trying to save money. My father was not trying to keep me away from the gifts that I wanted. My father wanted to give me all his wealth, but along with the wealth, he did not want me to become a proud person. He always wanted me to be thankful to the Supreme Father. So in this way, when somebody understands the purpose of life, then, the small difficulties that come in our life, they don't matter to us a lot. I'll end with this, some practical tips to become grateful or to practice gratitude in our life. First, speak gratitude to somebody. Speak to somebody saying, okay, I'm really thankful to you. If that person is somebody whom you respect, then you can say, thank you so much for giving me the right perspective in life. Thank you so much for teaching me the right way to think in life. Thank you so much for making me understand where I go wrong. These are some things which we could say. To God, sometimes we can go and speak to Gopinath and say, thank you so much for giving me a fit body in which I can practice devotional service. Thank you sometimes for making me sick, because when I'm sick, then I can spend a lot more time reading and chanting. Whereas when I'm busy, then I can't read much and I can't chant much. For people who are really little different and we don't agree with them, the way they think, the way they talk, we can go to them and tell them, thank you so much for teaching me what not to do in life. So there are some people who are really very strange, and you can go and thank them also. So one way to express gratitude is to speak. Another way to express gratitude is to write a gratitude letter. Sometimes, there are some people in this world, speaking to them becomes a little bit uncomfortable for us, but we can write a gratitude letter to them. See, these are people in our lives who have done something for us, but to go and express our gratitude to them on their face might become difficult for us. So first is to express gratitude by our words, and I gave some examples. Second is to write a gratitude letter. The third is something called as a gratitude visit. Some old friend whom we have not met since years, we just go over to their home and say, I am just here to chit chat with you. I have come here just to spend some quality time with you. Just gappe ladane ke liye aaya hu main. No philosophical talk, no shlokas of the Gita, just meaningful friendship talks, right? So gratitude talk, words, gratitude letter, or gratitude visit. But we should express our gratitude. It is said, gratitude felt but never expressed is like a birthday gift that you purchased but you never gave. So one thing is to experience gratitude, but more important than expressing gratitude is to express your gratitude. That's when the whole circle becomes complete. I just share something about, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was very grateful towards his followers. In 1972, on his Vyas Puja day, he thanked all his disciples and said, actually, you are the representatives of my spiritual master because you are helping me carry out the orders of my spiritual master. So he expresses gratitude. And His Holiness Satswarup Maharaj, who wrote the Prabhupada Leela he says, Prabhupada left us on November 14, 1977. And December month, the whole of ISKCON celebrates something. Do you remember what it is? The Gita Marathon, right? So in 1977, it was just 15 days after Prabhupada had left this world. And Prabhupada had always said in December, you should distribute books. So Satswarup Maharaj says, I still remember the day when I was thinking, this is December 1977, Prabhupada just left 15 days back, and all of us were drowning in an ocean of sorrow. And then we were thinking, should we have Gita Marathon this year or should we not have? And then some of the senior sannyasis, they came together and they said, will Prabhupada be happy if in sorrow of his departure, we don't celebrate the Gita Marathon in December 77, or will Prabhupada be happy that we overcome our sorrow? We are crying tears, but we wipe off our tears and get ready for the December Marathon and distribute books. Will Prabhupada be more happy? And all the senior sannyasis says, the way we know Prabhupada, Prabhupada will not be happy if we don't celebrate Gita Marathon in December 77. Prabhupada will be more happy if we celebrate Gita Marathon in 77. And Satswarup Maharaj mentions, all of us with doubled enthusiasm, we were wiping our tears in separation from Prabhupada. But he said, we crossed all our score boundaries in December 77. Why? Out of gratitude for Prabhupada, because Prabhupada had lived his life in gratitude to his spiritual master, and that is the standard that Prabhupada set. So this is something which I always remember, how 1977 December was an expression of gratitude by Prabhupada disciples for Prabhupada. They were crying, they were in pain, but they said, it does not matter what we feel, what matters is what Prabhupada will feel. And one example of, among the million examples of gratitude of Krishna, there's a very beautiful shloka in the Bhagavatam. It says, Sarathya parshad sevana sakhya dautya virasana nugamana stavana pranaman snigdheshu pandushu jagat pranatim cha vishnu bhaktim karoti nripatis charana ravinde. So here it mentions 7 things that Krishna did for the Pandavas. Sarathya. Sarathya means charioteer, Sarathi. Parashada. Parashada means he accepted the presidency at the Rajasuya Yajna. Yudhishthir Maharaj said, you should become the head of the Rajasuya Yajna, and Krishna accepted that, right? Sarathya Parshada Sevana, he did seva for the Pandavas. Sakhya, he did friendship to the Pandavas. Dautya, he became a messenger for the Pandavas. He became a peace messenger for the Pandavas. Should the Jiva become the messenger for the Lord, or should the Lord become the messenger for the Jivas? But he did that. Virasana Anugamana, Virasan, when the Pandavas were sleeping in the forest, Krishna was protecting them throughout the night with a sword in his hand. And he was thinking, if some demon comes, I'll kill, but the Pandavas should sleep. Virasana. Anugamana. Anugamana means following. When Yudhishthir Maharaj and Bhim, who were elder to Krishna in age, when they would walk in Hastinapur, Krishna would do Anugaman. Krishna would walk behind Yudhishthir Maharaj. Bade bhaiya ke piche chalna chahiye. Bhagwan ke aage, unko chalna chahiye. But Virasana Anugamana, Stavana Pranaman. Stavana means sometimes when Yudhishthir Maharaj would sit on the throne, then Krishna would sing praises towards the king. Why? To set an example for ordinary people. And Pranaman means elderly people. Krishna would always offer obeisances. So why would Krishna do all these services to the Jivatmas when actually it is Jivatmas Swarupa? Krishna ra Nityadas. So all the Jivas are supposed to serve Krishna. Why did Krishna do this for the Pandavas? Snigdheshu Pandushu Jagat Pranatim cha Vishnu. This Vishnu, why did he do for the Pandavas? Because the Pandavas were malleable to the will of the Lord. When Krishna said, you should fight the war, they fought the war, although they did not want to fight the war. So Snigdheshu Pandushu means the Pandavas always took decisions in their life not as per their will. They took decisions in their life as per the will of the Lord. So out of reciprocation and out of gratitude for the Pandavas, Krishna ended up doing all those things for the Pandavas, which actually the Pandavas as Jivas should do for the Supreme Lord. Krishna always wears that peacock feather. Anybody knows the story behind peacock feather? This is a very beautiful story that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions. At one point of time, Krishna was approached by some peacocks, and they said, we love you so much, and we know you play the flute very beautifully. Can you please play the flute, because we want to dance for you? And Krishna accepted this proposal. Krishna is there in the center with his flute, and he started playing his flute. And as he started playing his flute, all these peacocks surrounded Krishna, and they started dancing. And they started dancing very sweetly. Now, encouraged by the dancing of the peacocks, Krishna kept the flute, and Krishna started singing, and Krishna started dancing. And now there was a competition between the dancing of the peacocks and the dancing of Krishna. Guess who won? Krishna. Krishna was dancing so beautifully. All the peacocks, they're dancing sweetly, they're dancing. But they realized the way Krishna dances, we cannot dance. And they just kept quiet. And they just observed Krishna dancing. And Krishna kept on dancing. Why? Because the peacocks were dancing for his flute. And he is grateful to the peacocks. So he kept on dancing. Finally, Balaram saw that Krishna is getting exhausted. But Krishna won't keep quiet. Why? Because he wants to express his gratitude to the peacocks. Balaram went to Krishna and said, my dear brother, it's all right. You're getting exhausted, and the peacocks are also getting anxious. Previously, they were enjoying your dance, but now they're getting anxious. Arey, bichare, ye itna pasina chhut gaya inko. So, out of the feeling of well-being for the peacocks, I am requesting you, as your brother, to stop. That's when Krishna stopped. And then when he stopped, all these peacocks, because they were dancing, all their feathers fell off. And the king of peacocks, he went around and he picked up the best peacock feather. And what can he offer to the Lord? He does not have money. He does not have gems, but what does he have? He has the best peacock feather that had fallen off. And the king of peacocks took that best peacock feather and gave to Krishna. And with tear filled eyes and love, he offered that peacock feather to Krishna. And Krishna, recognizing the love of the peacocks for him, took that peacock feather and put it here and said, I'll never take it off. So this is that grateful Krishna who does not mind sitting at the feet of Arjun, even though the whole world is thinking, ye Bhagwan hai kya? I don't think he's Bhagwan because he sits at the feet of a warrior. Krishna says, I don't care what you think about me. I care what my devotees think about me, whether it is a peacock or whether it is somebody like Arjun. So gratitude is something that is inherent. We started from the story of Lord Vishnu. Remember the rat story? The rat was jumping and he got liberation. Why? Because he lit the lamp for some. So Krishna is very grateful. Dhruv Maharaj, a pure devotee of the Lord, is very grateful. Srila Prabhupada is very grateful, and that's why we see they lead such beautiful lives. They lead such inspiring lives. And we have a chance that we are in touch with Gopinath, we are in touch with Srila Prabhupada. If we learn even something about how to become grateful, actually we can lead a very meaningful life at an individual level, and we can lead a meaningful life at the community level. So thank you very much. I'm really honestly grateful to all of you for tolerating me and hearing me out as I'm speaking something which actually needs to be practiced at my own level. I'm speaking all this for myself. I want to become grateful. Maharaj says, a person who's not grateful is a great fool. Right? So I don't want to become a great fool. I don't want to become a Gobika fool, which is a great fool. I want to be grateful, a Gulab ka fool, right? So I'm praying to all of you. I'm praying to Radha Gopinath. I'm praying to Srila Prabhupada that may I become a grateful person and make my life meaningful and offer something at the lotus feet of my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So we would like to offer our gratitude to His Grace Nanda Dulal Prabhu for such a wonderful talk. It really nourished our hearts. Our hearts have become, recipient of these values. We can become grateful to Radha Gopinath ji, Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees. So let us thank His Grace Nanda Dulal Prabhu by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. We have a very, very special and wonderful sweet announcement. Today we are going to have a very wonderful feast. There is a nice pasta, there is nice soup, and many things are there. So be ready for that. And this wonderful feast has been sponsored, contributed by the devotees of KEM Passouts. His Grace Nanda Dulal Prabhu for last 2 decades have been going to this college, preaching to the boys and inculcating Krishna consciousness in their hearts. And these people, understanding the Krishna consciousness, out of gratitude, they have sponsored today's prasad. I would like to take the names of the doctors, devotees there. Dr. Abhishek Gosai, Dr. Ashish Tekwani, Dr. Gautam Pawar, Dr. Gaurav Batla, Dr. Mayank Goyal, Dr. Pranit Kale, Dr. Revati Tekwani, Dr. Saurabh Khidkikar, Dr. Sri Krishna Khandagale, Dr. Siddharth Vashisht, Dr. Vivek Mishra, His Grace Gopal Prabhu. So these are the devotees from all of us who became wonderful devotees, and they are offering us a wonderful offering, a nice prasad. So let us thank these devotees by loudly chanting 3 times. Oh, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. We have a special gift for these devotees. If the devotees have come, Vrinda Gopal Prabhu. Yeah, Vrinda Gopal Prabhu, please come. On behalf of all these KM devotees, we request His Grace Nanda Dulal Prabhu to offer this thing. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So you can see this wonderful temple. This temple has been made such a beautiful place by contribution of each devotee here. Many thousands of devotees, they work very hard throughout their, throughout the year, and in the Janmashtami or other time, they give the donations to the temple, and that this temple is running. So let us be grateful to all of the devotees also. Now, some another announcements. The next Prerana Festival will be on the 11th of April by His Grace Gaur Vilas Prabhu. Before that, next Prerana will be going to Nasik Dham, 3, 4th and 5th of April. All of you are aware, we are going for a wonderful yatra there. So 3 days, Good Friday is there, I think. So please make this Friday Good Friday by coming to the camp. Then today's services, the temple, the vessel washing and the Prerana services have been contributed by the IOS devotees guided by Baldev Shakti Prabhu and Krishna Gaur Prabhu. So also we'll thank them by loudly chanting 3 times. Haribo, Haribo. So we request the devotees who have come for first time, जो पहली बार आए हैं प्रेरणा फेस्टिवल में, उनसे निवेदन है आपके जगह पे खड़े हो जाइए. Those who have come for first time, please stand up at their own place. So we can properly welcome you. Okay. So we are very, very happy that you have taken your precious time. You have come to this Prerana Festival. Hope you enjoyed the Prerana Festival. So let us pray for these devotees that they keep coming to this Prerana Festival. For you, when you go down after taking prasad, go to the Bhakti Vedant Hall. You can ask. There you will receive some gifts also. Okay. So let us welcome these new people by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So kindly be seated down. Now we'll be having a wonderful kirtan. And in kirtan we request all of you to dance in circles. जब आप कीर्तन करेंगे तो circles में dance कीजिए. Okay? Hare Krishna. Thank you.